Bring out Elizabeth Sullivan.
The tortured souls cried out in agony as the flames mounted higher and higher. Burn, witch, burn, witch, burn, burn, burn. Those I've said, it is known today, the actual practice of witchcraft in 17th century New England. Superstition.
Booyah.
Booyakasha.
Yeah. So what's going on, brother?
Nothing. I got a I've been getting into more now than I guess in the last 2 years. Dungeon synth. You familiar with the term? Dungeon synth.
Yeah. Go on.
Basically, dungeon synth is how can I describe it? It's like synth music, but for black metal and Dungeons and Dragons type, aesthetic.
Okay.
So it's like medieval war, dirge-like doom music, but it's pure synth, and it's very dark and brooding and moody. And this is my Dungeon Synth T-shirt.
Nice.
So anyway, I've been getting into it more lately, and I've been picking up some other albums by different bands. So I could recommend some stuff if you're interested in just listening to it, but it's definitely an interesting style. And I know there's like a whole group of people that look down on the phrase dungeon synth and they think it's like derogatory, but I don't know, man. I find it to be super interesting and fun to listen to. I was like, Sebastian, I love these guys, Gate Master. And we were playing it last night. I work, till midnight. And then after the fact, Sebastian was like, hey, I'm hungry. Why don't we just go for a ride? And for people listening, Sebastian's my son. And so he's 18 and he's like, Dad, let's just go to McDonald's, and it's Shamrock Shake time. So we usually are good for like 1 or 2 Shamrock Shakes in a few month period. So we went yesterday around, 12:30 in the morning, and I was listening to one of these bands called Gate Master, and Gate Master is, they were new to me. I found out about them, I guess, in November, but, totally into them. Of course I'm buying it on vinyl, but I also have a digital copy of it, and that's what we're listening to. And he's like, I just don't get this music. He's like, it just sounds, there's no vocals. He's like, there's no singing or anything, there's just noise. I was like, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
As long, it's
Oh man,
it's some, like, for me, a lot of times that's the best music to listen to when I'm writing, because a lot of times the lyrics will sort of get in the way,
right? Because you get that mind worm and you start riffing on a lyric, and you got words in your head. You don't want words in your head when you're writing, especially if you're trying to be creative in a different type of medium. That music, it's like, I used to listen to classical music for book lovers, and it was like 4 or 5 CDs that I had, and one was Brahms for book lovers, Beethoven for book lovers, and it was just that kind of classical music that you would play in the background to get the juices flowing. You're trying to get into a book or something, and also writing. And this type of music lends itself, especially if you're writing a horror or a genre type of, you want something that's going to put you in the mood, to
set that tone.
Absolutely.
Exactly, put the mood. Yep, exactly.
Yep.
So does this what's it called again?
Gate Master. Oh, Dungeon Synth.
Dungeon Synth. Does it have any keytars? Because keytars are very important in that type of,
I don't know. Depending upon the band, they might have keytars, but I have no idea if they do or not. Keytars. I haven't even heard that word. I haven't heard keytar in fucking 35 years. Don't ever say that word.
We're not talking about the country either.
Yeah, don't ever say keytar around me again, because my heavy metal, side gets really mad when I hear that word.
Hey,
but
man.
you got to check it out. And there's, Gate Master. There's oh my God, there's so many dungeon synth bands out there now. I mean, I'm drawing a blank on some of my favorites, but I'll send you a list. And I'll, you know what? I'll post some on Instagram too, in case anyone listening to this is following our Instagram page. And if you're not, you probably should. We post some stuff on there.
Hey, you know what? I could post it on the YouTube video, the links, all that.
Absolutely. So it'll be in the D box below.
D-box.
Anywho,
It sounds kind of kinky, but
it
yeah.
does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So we are here to talk about a movie that we saw recently that I was really I liked the sound or the premise of this film, and I found out it was an independent film, which is
Mm,
I'm keyed into those types of things,
yeah.
and the premise for this film was interesting because it is an intimate moment, and um, it is called the movie is called The Stylist.
Yep.
So for anyone who's uncertain of this movie, I'll give you a little description. So bear with me a moment.
Don't leave him waiting, Lenny.
I know. A lonely hairstylist becomes obsessed with the lives of her clients and descends into murderous madness. And that really is the premise. And it's a very simple premise, but I found this movie to be really affecting. And the main character of Claire is portrayed by the actress, and I think, and I apologize if I'm butchering her name, but Najara Townsend. And this is
I think so. Yeah, it's got to be it.
yeah, and Jill Gevorgizian. I believe that is how you pronounce her last name. And if I butchered any names, I really apologize because I really appreciate the work that they did on this. So the actress Townsend, who plays Claire, the stylist,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she is deranged beyond all belief, obviously. And
Right, right.
for those of you who are a fan of the horror movie Maniac, this movie was reminiscent of Joe Spinell's portrayal of that maniac. Um, and I really love the movie Maniac and Joe Spinell. And when I saw this film, they wore their influences on their sleeves, I think, and they were channeling pieces of that film. This is not a ripoff, by the way, so
No.
don't go into thinking that it is. This has something to say above and beyond just being a movie about a serial killer. So Claire has her first victim, and when I was watching this episode, well, not episode, but when I was watching this, it was right after I got out of work, and so it was like around 12:30, quarter to 1 in the morning, and I put this movie on, and I had no intentions of sitting through the entire film. I had just heard about it, of all places, in the new issue of Rue Morgue magazine, which, if no one is reading Rue Morgue and you're a horror fan, you should be ashamed of yourself, because it really is an amazing magazine. I've talked to you about this magazine for as long as we've known each other, and so 16 years, 18 years, whatever it is. um
Yeah, you've been
this
a fan for a long time.
Oh my god, I've been a fan. I've been
Yeah.
reading this magazine for like 20 years now, but I've told you about it since I was in, when we first met.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I was reading the magazine and I found out about this, and I'm always keyed into new types of horror movies and independent films by directors that aren't necessarily corporate type movies. Although I love those too, don't get me wrong. There's a place for
Right.
some of those films in what we talk about, but we talk about a lot of genre films here. Anyway, the character Claire, and I was thinking about this. I'm watching this film as it unfolds, and I'm like, I'm not going to stay up late. And late for me is like 3 a.m. I don't want to stay up that late. So I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm with the intentions of maybe watching 45 minutes of it, and then I'm going to go to bed. And I couldn't stop watching this movie. I was riveted, and part of it is the acting in this, and it really connected with me in terms of how she portrayed this character. And then I was thinking about her, the other character Claire, and how she was a borderline personality, and it's she kills these people. She takes the victims and scalps them and takes the hair. Now, this is like the part where that you feel like the connection to Maniac, because in the movie Maniac, Joe Spinell's character um scalps these
Also
women,
scalps. Yep.
and he puts them on mannequins, these mannequins' heads.
Hmm.
And then he, you know, covets these prizes almost. But for
Hmm.
her, it's even more intense because now she's wearing these
It's
wigs, and there's a bloody line of where the skin was cut,
hmm
and then the hair fits on her, and she's like fitting it on herself, and then she starts reciting some of the things that the people said, and she's emulating them, and some of the lines that she uses for the character, and she's got this really just cracked crazy smile, and then there are moments of fits of where she's crying, um
right.
because she's trying to connect, she's trying to become a real
Right.
person.
Exactly. She's got like identity issues.
She does. And so I'm starting to think like, unstable relationships, unclear shifting self-image, fear of abandonment, um, feelings of emptiness, explosive anger, and the intensity when she would be like driving in the car and
Hmm.
she was beating herself up for the things that she was saying in conversation with a friend of, one of her clients. Um, and she's like pounding on the steering wheel and screaming. It was so intense, and it was just like a burst of intensity from, like weeping and crying and muddling over the things that she had said that she was beating herself up for, to, screaming and yelling and pounding the wheel. And she was just so damn good in this movie.
Right.
I
Right.
really wish there was more of an award or ability to award an actor, that was that maybe didn't have um
Yeah. But
a chance at like
exactly
an award, like this isn't going to be up
because
nominated for a
right.
Golden Globe or
Exactly.
which I don't watch those anyway, but it would be nice for there to be an award show to reward actors
Specifically in the
specifically.
horror because that is um I think it's looked over so much because there was no name recognition for this film. There was no one famous in it at all. No one
Right.
I recognized at least. And it's always a challenge for a movie like this. And despite, I mean, yes, you could tell it was definitely on a budget, but the skill involved, it was serious. I mean, it was very good. It was very polished,
It
for
really
an
was.
independent movie. I mean, I don't know what the budget was, but you could definitely tell it was limited. But at the same time, that you could tell there was a lot of love put into it. The
And
scenarios were great also.
you think of other great Italian directors. Well, not that she's Italian, but I'm saying the Italian directors that I always love to watch their movies, and the cinematography, the color palettes that are used. There's attention to
Mhm.
detail in this movie, and there's such a um, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but there's an amazing color palette, and especially in the beginning of this movie,
Mhm.
um, and even just the sound effects, where, like you said,
Ooh.
the
Ooh.
first thing, like my toes curled up,
Yeah, yeah,
watching the
yeah.
beginning is because she kills this woman and then grabs the scalp and is pulling the scalp
Just
back off
peeling it
of.
off. Yeah. And the sound, like they just there was no like
Oh,
music, like the music wasn't drowning it out or anything. They made sure you hear every,
it was brilliant. It was
yeah.
intense. There was and I think some of the thing that I was reading about in Room Org, they were also saying the even in Instagram too, this unrealistic expectations of beauty in this,
Yes.
in not just in America, but throughout the world.
Throughout the world. Yeah.
Young women, the pressure placed upon young women to always want to be perfect and look gorgeous, and trying to emulate these fashion styles, and the
Look at
concern.
Chinese foot binding, you know? It's
Right. I mean,
terrible. It's
yes. So
absolute
people have been
horror.
literal slaves to beauty throughout the ages.
Right.
But you see these types of things, and you think, wow, what happens with people who are emotionally unstable and don't have this, the ability to handle these types of things? What happens to them? Marginalized at best, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens with a young woman who's really a very attractive and pretty woman, Claire, and you can see like there are hints to the abuse that she had as a child, and they weren't as heavy-handed as when this was adapted from the
Mm-hmm.
same writer and director. So she made a short film around 12 and a half minutes long of this movie, The Stylist, and then after the fact she was able to get a bigger budget and get
Enough
backing,
funding. Mm-hmm.
and she was able to make a full film out of this, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad she did, because it was really done so well. um but yeah, you got to see, in the short film, she had a scar on her neck that you kind of like see like as a physical representation of the pain that she had and what she was dealing with growing up. And in this film, there's more of like she's playing a recording from her mother, I guess, or
Mm-hmm.
and things that she had experienced with her mom. And it was difficult to kind of hear specifically some of the things that the mother was saying in that, but you could tell that there was this abuse by her mom, who supposedly is dead. But I wouldn't be
Mm.
surprised if she had killed her own mother.
Right. 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 But like you said, it was done. It wasn't heavy-handed. It was done, very you're not sure, and that's great. Where it didn't have to be fully explained. That there was something very negative going on in her youth with her mother.
Right.
And then she also mentions that her mother would change her hair color all the time. So
The
that
key the key
added
phrase
to it.
the
Yes.
key phrase that I took home from this was, I never knew who was coming home.
Yes. Yes.
And that was like, wow, that's intense for a child to deal with something like that. And in keeping with probably why she herself doesn't know who she is,
Right.
and why she's trying to wear these different hairstyles, because she's trying to emulate these human beings, of which she has no idea how. But she does a good job of it. Like, she has a regular job and she has regular clients and deals with them, and it's certain clients, like this one woman in the beginning of the film was an out of town
Hmm.
person, and she was just talking about how she's having sex on her boyfriend and doing all kinds of stuff, and she's just living her life and doing whatever it is. And she's like, well, why are you telling me this? I'm a stranger. And she's like, well, I'm telling you this because you are a stranger and there's no connection, and so once I leave here, it doesn't exist. No one in my world knows about this. So,
Right.
I could tell you to kind of get it off my chest and then move on from it. So she's talking about hooking up with these boy toys and everything else. And obviously, that woman is not long for this world. And Claire, claims her as a victim. And again, she has this secret room in her basement that she goes down into, and it's almost it's like subterranean, where she's going inside her own psyche. And I felt like,
Good call.
yeah, so that's what I felt like. She was diving into this, subterranean layer, and she puts on these headpieces and becomes a person, and she starts reciting the things that they said and tries to become them.
Did you notice when she puts the scalp on the glass mannequin head, and then she takes it off, it sticks. Did you notice that? I was kind of like,
Yeah.
ooh.
I was
Yeah, it's little
hoping.
attention to detail,
I
man. I
know.
was just like, oh, you bastards.
I
Yeah.
was hoping to see, like, like like skin, or like a sticky viscous stuff, like, or blood residue
Yeah.
on the head, on the mannequin head when she
Maybe
pulls it
that was
off.
a little too much, but yeah, yeah. But still, it stuck on, and that kind of got. I was like, oh god damn.
So fucking good. This And you know what? I actually posted on the director's Instagram and tagged our page in it too, because I just told her, I said I love this movie, and that we're going to be discussing it on Cinema Slaughter, and I'm going to tag her when the post comes up. But
Awesome.
I really hope she listens to this and understands that there are plenty of fans out there for her work, and I really am excited to see what else she has to offer, because this was so good. So Claire eventually has a client named Olivia, and Olivia wants her to do her hair for her wedding. And she's like, "No, I don't do weddings. I'm not interested in that." Probably something that she doesn't want to be connected with, because there's to imply that there's a wedding, it implies a life, it implies um movement, and change, and all of these things that Claire does not possess the ability to connect with anyone, to be able to do these things. So of course she's doesn't want to be involved in it, but because her this woman Olivia is so insistent and so enthusiastic, um Claire, kind of breaks down and says, "Okay, I'll do it." And then at that point, Olivia is so excited, and Claire, is quiet. She doesn't have any friends. But Olivia says, "Hey, why don't you come over my house tonight? I'll show you the dress with your hairstyle that you did for me. Um, and you can come over. We'll have a couple of glasses of wine and we'll hang out." And so she invites her, and this obsession develops with her client Olivia, and she starts talking about other things. She invites her to the bachelorette party, and doesn't get along with her Olivia's friends. And they're like, she overhears them in the ladies' room trash talking her, like she's kind of weird. And why would Olivia invite her hairstylist, to the wedding
Hmm.
or to the bachelorette party? What the hell is that all about? So she's very upset by these things and records the messages, records them speaking, which is really creepy, eavesdropping on them. But
Mm.
I mean, this is she's a voyeur in
Yeah.
the most horrific sense, because she not only um views other people and tries to live vicariously through them, she murders them and takes their lives and tries to become, she tries to become a human being by taking a life. And I'm getting to that scene that we talked about. So these scenes, like of obsession, slowly progress throughout this movie, and to the point where she goes to Olivia's house when no one's home, and
Yes.
breaks into the house basically. And well, she doesn't have to. She stole the key. She stole the
Right.
spare
Right.
key, and
Yeah.
goes into the house, and no one's home. She goes into the closet. She tries on like a nightgown, like a negligee, and she's becoming Olivia. She's feeling like, oh, this is, I'm connecting with her, but it's more than just connecting with her. It's trying to become someone, trying to become her.
And the thing is with that scene is I was under the impression that she was almost like a like a Black Widow type hunter, where she waits for the victims to come to her, but she's bold. She goes out. She gives zero
Fuck
fucks,
yeah.
man. She is
Holy shit.
like,
To the
she's a
point,
beast.
and I told you this, I was watching the
Yeah,
scene unfold in the bedroom, and
yeah,
I'm yelling at the TV screen, "Get out of there already. What, are
right,
you
right.
crazy? Like, why are you still in this room? Like, get out of the house." And I want the tension that they built in this scene was really,
Was really good. Very tangible.
really,
Yeah,
really tangible. I mean, that palpable scene she's not just trying on Olivia's clothing. She finds Olivia's vibrator and
Yeah.
proceeds to get herself off. She gets herself to an orgasm, and as she climaxes, she hears the door opening up, and she hears Olivia and her family members returning from their from the practice, the wedding
Right.
dinner,
Right.
the practice
Yeah.
dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my God, now like, now I'm freaking out. Like, get out of this house already. I'm like, and I want her to be caught. I'm not rooting for the killer, but there's a part of you that connects with her because she's about to be
Yeah.
found out. They're going to discover that she's, and so she quickly, takes the nightgown off, puts it back, and gets the hell out of
Bolts.
there. She bolts through, the bathroom window and takes off, and she's not found out. So
You know what? You know what? One thing that I really liked about this movie is actually with Olivia, is that it could have been some lazy writing when they could have made Olivia super beautiful, living the perfect life, where it's easy for Claire to be jealous of her. But Olivia isn't. Olivia has insecurities. She's, kind of not too sure about the guy she's marrying. Like she's a much more complex character. And I thought I really liked that. They could have taken the easy route and made Olivia this gorgeous, two-dimensional type character, but they didn't. They went that they gave her a lot of depth, and I really respected that.
I did too, and I loved it. I don't want to give the ending away, but I want to just say, I mean, normally I don't have problems with spoilers, but I really feel
this
like
is a new movie,
it's new, but it's new only in the fact that no one has heard or seen this movie enough.
Right.
So I'm not going to give away what happens at the end, but I will say that I found it to be chilling, and Ms. Townsend's acting at the end of this film gave me the creeps. I can't give away more than just saying that it was such a great movie and so out of left field that this is definitely a favorite of mine, that I think I would buy this on Blu-ray and own this one because I would watch it again and again, the way I watch Maniac again and again. I think it lends itself to that kind of viewing. And I think it's a great film, and I think more people should know about it. So kudos to everyone involved in this. And I really do hope to see other films, by Six, as her nickname is, she goes by the name Six. So, so I'm going to go to you. What's your take? How many butcher knives, are you going to give this movie?
Or wigs?
Oh, wigs. Yeah. So we're going to give it bloody wigs.
We're going to give it bloody wigs. I think this movie deserves 4.5 bloody wigs out of 5.
I agree with you. I'm almost reluctant to give it 5, although I feel that strongly about this film, but it's not perfect. There are some, slight pacing elements, but I'm not saying anything derogatory about this movie. It is a little slow, and that's all I will say about it.
I would say, honestly, for me, is that the slowness, it didn't get boring. Like I called it a smart burn, where it was slow, but they kept the interesting enough where you didn't get bored.
I agree, but you and I look at those types of things differently, whereas modern horror goers want action. They want stuff to happen instantly, all the time.
Right.
This for me is not a slow burn, because the movie starts off with a murder scene, and the set piece, the set piece is just so intense and really well done. It can't be a slow burn. The action is right up front and immediate. So it's absolutely a 4.5 out of 5. I can't say enough great things about this movie. So please check out The Stylist, and you won't be disappointed. And for my friend Dennis out there who's never seen Maniac, shame on you. I told you to watch Maniac, and he said, is this Maniac Cop? No, it's not Maniac Cop. It's Maniac with Joe Spinell. He's supposed to come over tomorrow and watch it because I own it on Blu-ray. But I'm also going to try and sneak this movie in on him too because he needs to see it as well. So, thanks again for everybody for always listening to us. We appreciate the audience appeal and approval, and we look forward to keeping it interesting and reviewing a couple of more films that we got in our pockets. So, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Rock and roll.
Rock on.